Thank you. Firstly, Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you to the organizer for inviting me to share our perspective and our experience with regards to the topic today, which is Zero Trust Security. And specifically, the topic that has been given to me is about fortifying business with Zero Trust Security. So the next few days, a few hours, a few minutes, sorry, I'll be sharing you a bit of our view on the matter. But first, let us start by looking into our digital landscape of IT space nowadays and understanding the environment. If you look at these statistics in April 2022, based on these statistics, we can see that a lot more people are now interconnected to the cyberspace. We can see about 5 billion or 63% of the global population are actually internet users. In Malaysia, we have even higher percentage where about 29.55 million or about 89.6% of the total population are internet users. So what we can say from this is that the world is moving into a very interconnected world, and more people are connected with the adoption and the use of the various connected devices and services. And these are even, I would say, being expedited. As we all know, the last 2 years, we have been having this pandemic, COVID-19. And these actually create a new normal called basically a new way of living and going about our lives, our work, and our interactions with other people. And we believe that this new normal will stay for quite some time. And we have to adapt to our lifestyle, even after we no longer have this pandemic, and because we have got used to already this new normal, our lifestyle. What I mean by that, for example, we can see that now there is a tendency of having increased and institutionalized hybrid workplace. So before, we used to have only a physical office at the place for us to work. Nowadays, it become hybrid, where people can work from home. And even after this, I would say the transitions towards the endemic, we still have people continue working from home, even though maybe not all or not majority, but still it has become a culture, a new normal to many of us. And because of this new normal also, we can see accelerated migration to the cloud infrastructure and applications, the growth in functionality, and the use of online collaborative tools such as the one that we're using today, Zoom, for example. And this is a new normal that I would say 3-4 years ago, it is something that is, I would say, awkward to many. We tend to have events or tools or meetings that we do it physically, but now it has become a new culture, new normal, as mentioned earlier. And there's also more attention to enterprise resilience, rise in e-commerce, and actually also expanded cyber attack services due to the increased remote or hybrid workplace operation, etc. So these are, I would say, the new normal, and at the same time, the new post-COVID-19 world that we need to understand. At the same time, as we all know, because of this COVID, it expedited connectivity, it expedited the use of digital technologies. And it is not just as straightforward, because we also know at the same time, there are many new technologies, emerging technologies that are out there, and they are even converging. And these actually add more complexities to the cyberspace. And one thing that we need to understand while we move towards this digital technology into our life, enabling us in many things in our personal life, business life, etc., it comes without risk. So these are the things that we understand, especially with regards to cyber attacks, which may even have physical consequences, especially those attacks that involve attacking critical infrastructure, such as those in transportation, energy sector, defense sector, etc. And if you look at some of the statistics, we can say that this is a phenomenon that is happening everywhere globally, and also increasing, not only in terms of number of attacks and also the sophistication of attack, but also in terms of cost, damage cost as a result of these cyber criminal activities or cyber attacks, etc. And as you can see, for example, the top 3 cyber attacks such as ransomware, social engineering, malicious insider, and also the costs are up to even $6 trillion per year. And one thing that we need to understand when we talk about the evolution of technology, it's not just about making us more connected. Yes, it is, but at the same time, it also creates more risk because of these cyber threats also getting more and more active and even evolving. They are getting more advanced, more sophisticated. So the way they attack is also getting more and more advanced than before. And these are the things that we need to understand, that we need to be wary and get ready. Yeah? And in context of business, for example, some of the attacks are that common. These are the common things like password attack, man in the middle, spyware, etc. And in context of us in Cyber Security Malaysia, we have a help center under our MyCert or Malaysia Computer Emergency Response Team, where we receive various types of incidents that has been reported to us by the netizens and also even institutions, whether they're public or private sectors. So we categorize them into 9 categories, and it seems to be the top categories for the past, I would say 7 years, 8 years. It has to be consistently fraud as a top one, malicious code, intrusion, and content related. Malicious code, including the ransomware attack and intrusion. We have those involving hacking activities, etc. So now going back to the topic about fortifying business with zero trust security. What is zero trust? This is a concept that we need to understand. It's about we have to verify access all the time for all resources. Simply to say, trust no one. That means any request, whether they are the request to our network, whether they are from internal, whether they are from external, we always put assumption do not trust, and that's why I call it zero trust. Never trust. Always verify, and we have mechanisms to ensure that we verify them based on identity or context that involve the protection of our data, devices, network, etc. So this will allow to limit the impact of cyber attacks, whether it is external or insider breach. And at the same time, allows us to automatically collect input and respond to it. So there are several principles when it comes to it, that is mentioned just now. Never trust, always verify. And then we try to always give the least privilege, and we default deny. Full visibility and inspection, and a centralized management. So these are some of the key principles of zero trust. Some of the features, it enables to recognize the anomalies, the threats in real time, and it can ensure users and machines to be validated each time they request network access, and also relies on least privilege access, and information is accessible on the strictly need to know basis. So this concept of zero trust really ensuring that the one who deserves to get access is the one that can be allowed to access it. And even though whoever managed to get access to it, they are only within the one perimeter that has been given to them. So these are some of the why we need to protect our organization using this concept of zero trust security. Some of the features include, for example, here, micro segmentation. That means this refers to the practice of chunking the security parameters into smaller zones so as to maintain discrete access for distinct parts of the network. They're also focusing about multi-factor authentication. So it's just no longer about having maybe only password, but there is a need to have a different level, multi-layered kind of, we call it multi-factor authentication to ensure we have the capability to verify the right person. And then it also relies on continuous monitoring, inspection, and logging of traffic and also activities. And also it can be automated. When it comes to zero trust in business, I remember there was a statement by a former director of FBI mentioned that there are only two types of organizations in the world. One that knows they've been hacked and one that do not know they've been hacked. So because of that, it is very important that we assume breach. So by having zero trust concept, zero trust security, and implementing it, it allows us to reduce this business and organizational risk. At the same time, it will also provide control over the cloud environment, lowers the breach potential, and boost compliance, and also improve the trust. So this is a concept of security or an approach that needs to be understood, that regardless of whatever we do, we assume breach, and at the same time we assume that we cannot trust anyone, whether they are insiders or whether they are from external. And then we put the necessary security measures to always verify all the time. So to build zero trust into organization, we have to enforce the 6 key elements. Here, these are the list. The first is on identities. Second is on data. Third is on the devices. Fourth on applications, infrastructure, and the networks. So these 6 elements is very important to be enforced in our organization as part of our strategy to build zero trust. So how do we enforce this? How do we do it? For example, in the context of this policy enforcement, these 6 categories, the identities, devices, data, apps, infrastructure, and network. You can see some of the details here, where, for example, in terms of identity provider, the multi-factor authentication, and when we look at from the devices, whether the corporate or unmanaged devices, there are areas that need to be enforced by the security policy. Even on data, the emails, documents, structured data, and etc. I mean, as you can see from the slides. So these are the 6 elements that needs to be looked at, and the role of the organization to ensure it is being implemented, so that integrity of one of these trusted resource, if it is compromised, because we know it will translate into a free rein of the malicious. So we need to be wary, and we have to ensure cover all the 6 elements as highlighted. And this is how the zero trust security enforcement can be implemented. As I mentioned earlier, when we talk about building zero trust into the organization, the need to know is the network is always assumed to be hostile. So these are the assumption that we have to bear in mind. And with this result, we also put in mind that threats are not just from outside, but even from the internal. So external and internal threats exist on the networks all the time. Second, the third, network locality is not sufficient for deciding trust in the network. And then every device, user, and network flow need to be authenticated and authorized. And policies also must be dynamic and calculated from as many sources of data as possible. So let me share a bit of how do we view at the strategic level this issue of managing security in the context of Cyber Security Malaysia as an agency responsible to monitor and to protect the cyberspace of the country. Basically, we have launched an initiative called Cyber CASA, in Malay, we call it Program Pemerkasaan Keselamatan Cyber, but in English, roughly, it's meant basically a program to empower, to sustain, and to strengthen cybersecurity infrastructure and ecosystem in Malaysia to ensure the network security preparedness. Okay, and we approach this through what we call holistic approach, with a focus to become resilient, where we stresses on the three elements: people, process, and also technology. Out of that, we have developed various products and services that is meant to manage the issue of security overall, and then at the same time covering not only from the perspective of responsive, but also from the angle of proactive measures. And we also admit that while all security measures that we have put in place by many organizations, it is important. For example, we put firewalls, IPS, antivirus, AVs, etc. It is important, but with the technology advancements, with the convergence of technologies, with the emergence of new technologies, some of these traditional security approach may no longer be sufficient to deal with what we call the smart cyber threats. So that's why the importance of what we call defense in depth, or multi-layer defense. As if we give an analogy at this castle, the center of it is the critical assets, and we have the various policies, procedures, we have the people awareness, firewall, institution, etc. So just like that, we have multi-layered defense from the policies and procedures, awareness, physical, perimeter, network, host, apps, etc. And out of that, we develop the various products and services and solutions that covers the three elements of the people, process, and also technology. And these services combine together, and we approach this not only for our own organization, but also we apply this by engaging the various key stakeholders, public or private sectors, in managing these issues. Okay. Okay, this one is more, okay. This is more out of this, alhamdulillah, we have achieved some recognition and award. And what, for example, one of the most recent one in terms of this is an awareness program that we did to the public, where after so many years of involvement in cyber activities and managing cyber incidents, we developed a film, a telefilm that was aired in our national television in February 2022 as a way to tackle the people aspects, which is awareness. And other than that, we also played a role, since cyber issues are not just local issues, it's also international issues. So we play the role to support other platforms, and we work collaboratively with partners in the Asia Pacific, in the OIC countries, and even at the global level on the various platforms that are there globally. So in final, to summarize, we understand that there is no such thing as 100% security. There's always areas for improvement to be made. There's also the need to understand that we need to ensure a secure, resilient, and trusted cyber environment in order to sustain our progress. So that to manage this, we have to have an approach that is holistic. Basically, they are adaptive to the changing environment, dynamic and innovative, covering the three aspects of people, process, and technology. And we need to also implement this concept of implementing zero trust security so that enterprise can improve control over who has access to what resources. This also will be able to reduce organizations' attack surface and prevents any attacks by making unauthorized resources unreachable or even invisible. So zero trust security will enable greater visibility, yeah, through activity monitoring. So I think with that, I'll end here. I hope that gives some idea and understanding about this concept of zero trust security. It also gives some idea about the landscape that we are in, because it's getting more and more complex and more challenging. But we all know that the world is getting more and more connected, and as a result, the exposure to the risk is higher. So like it or not, we have to face it, and it is even being catalyzed further by this COVID-19, creating a new normal in life, to the level that now hybrid has become the new norm and the new culture, whether it is for work or whether it is for personal living activities, etc., for commerce. And as a result, like it or not, in terms of enterprise, the approach way forward is actually to have this zero trust security to be applied and to be practiced, making the assumption that the environment that is hostile, we assume breach, and the threats can not only coming from outside and from external parties, but also internally. As such, all the necessary mechanisms need to be put in place. So with that, I end my presentation, and I take this opportunity again to thank you to the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share our perspective with regards to the topic. Thank you.